Okay, all right, here we go. So do you want to help me prick my finger so I could take this test?
No.
Okay. Why is this so nerve-wracking? Okay, hold on. My heart is racing. I don't know why I'm being such a baby right now. If I was at the hospital, it wouldn't be, or at a clinic or something, it wouldn't be so bad even. 1, 2. Oh shit. 1, 2. Woo, I got it. Hey guys, how are y'all doing? I hope everything is going well. So today I have a really different type of video for you guys here today. This is going to be kind of hard for me because I am not a motivational speaker of any kind. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a doctor. I don't know any fancy terminology. I just wanted to share some things with you today. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a food sensitivity test. Yeah, neither did I. I have been doing research because I have hypothyroid disease for years. I have had hypothyroid disease, and I hate calling it a disease because it sounds so horrible. It is not curable, but it is definitely manageable. I am taking medications for it, but there's so much more you can do other than taking medications to support your thyroid and manage your thyroid and, you know, be the best that you can be with that. But I have been doing so much research for years because I have been overweight practically my entire life. I have been overweight since 8 years old, and I have been struggling to be a thin person forever, as long as I can remember. When I got into high school and I fell in love with my boyfriend at the time, obviously, I was a little thinner. I did a lot of aerobics. I took weightlifting and stuff like that, so I was able to get some of the weight down, but I have never been thin. Last time I remember being thin was when I was 5 years old. So in my adult years, the older I get, 38 years old, I've had thyroid disease since 19. The older I get, I started to realize that I am losing so much of my youth. I have hardly any of my youth left. And I want to spend the rest of my life as comfortable as possible. And I'm noticing that as I age, a lot of health issues are arising, and it's scary, I've developed tinnitus. I have really horrible anxiety, especially around people I don't know and in public. I get sore throats quite often, but I try to manage that with Airborne. I feel like Airborne and grapeseed extract is like a miracle worker for me when it comes to my immunity, because I have such a horrible immune system. Now, if you guys don't know what hypothyroidism is, it's actually an autoimmune disease, kind of like diabetes, only thyroid has many functions. And I'll create a whole video on hypothyroidism if you guys are interested in that. I know what I know based on experience and based on things that I've looked into on my own. I do a lot of YouTube, I do a lot of Google searching, catalogs, stuff like that. Anything that has to do with thyroid, I will perk my ears up and I will listen and I'll hear it out. A lot of times I feel like I can't even trust doctors these days because they don't even test your thyroid levels properly. A normal standard doctor, when you go into a clinic and get your thyroid levels checked, they're only checking your T3 and T4 levels, and they won't even know what is exactly wrong with your thyroid unless they actually do further investigation. But like I said, that's for a whole different video. If you guys are interested in something like that, please leave them in the comments below. It gives me something to do, If I can help just one person with the little bit that I know, then it makes me happy. Like I said, I am not a nutritionist, I am not a doctor, I don't know fancy terminology, so you could take whatever I say with a grain of salt and hear me out, and you can decide whether or not that you agree or disagree with what I have to say. I have been browsing YouTube and I came along this food sensitivity test, and I thought it was completely interesting because I have been feeling so bloaty, so like I feel a lot of discomfort in my digestional tract. I don't pass food like normal people do. It's a lot slower. My metabolism is slower, so I don't pass it regularly like a normal person would. The consistency is different. I'm sorry if this is TMI, but it's the truth. It's just, it is what it is. You know, we all have it. So poop, if you can't like say the word poop, I'm sorry if you can't hear the word poop, then maybe you want to exit out this video right now, because you know this is a very serious matter, and your poop has a lot to do with what your body is telling you. And my poop is telling me that there is something wrong with my digestive system. My digestive system. Sorry, I have problems with enunciation as well. But anyway, I have been dealing with major digestional issues for a long time, and as I get older I am tired of dealing with it. So that's why I decided to take this test. But this food sensitivity test doesn't just necessarily mean that it only covers your digestional issues. It also can tell you if you're having joint pain, if you're having inflammation. Inflammation could be bloating as well. It could explain my tinnitus, because not only do I have ringing in the ears, but I also have headaches. And that is another thing that can be a trigger for food sensitivities. So that's why I've decided to take this test. I've seen other people take it. They're not completely happy with the results, but I mean, you're not gonna get like a superhero sensitivity test in the mail and, you know, get all the answers you're looking for without seeing your doctor. So if you're having like major issues, you might want to consult your physician and maybe even get a specialist to check you out. You know, like there could be an underlying cause for whatever you're experiencing, and that is important too. I know, I hate doctors too. Down the struggles, we all have our reasons and our excuses for not going. For me, I have trust issues. It has a lot to do with my anxiety, and I've talked to so many different doctors, including an endocrinologist that deals specifically for thyroid and diabetes, and without even taking my blood and really doing some research, she just basically told me that I was diabetic, which is completely not true. I am not diabetic. So what I want to show you is what came in as my results of this test that I took. If you guys are interested in watching how this test is done, there are so many people on YouTube that have taken this test. It's pretty self-explanatory. I got mine off Everlywell. It was really, really easy and simple. They pretty much send you a kit in the mail. It comes with 3 syringes, a bunch of gauze, Band-Aids, sterilization packet, and it breaks it down for you. It tells you exactly what to do, and you just send it off in the mail, and then within 3 weeks you get your test results. It's pretty easy. I actually used my Flex spending account. If you don't know what a Flex card is, it's pretty much something that's issued through your job. You get to load money on a card in the beginning of the year, and then you get to spend that money on any kind of medical expenses, whether you're going to your dentist or your doctor. And in this case, I was able to buy this food sensitivity test online. So I bought mine on Everlywell. The reviews were good and bad, but there's so many different tests that you can take, so the reviews were mixed. As far as the sensitivity test, the reviews were pretty good. The reviews on YouTube were not that great, but like I said, you can't expect great results off a food sensitivity test. This food sensitivity test would be kind of as if you were to walk into a clinic without the waiting, without being in public and stuff like that. That's why it interested me. I actually did this video 2 months ago, and as I was editing it, I was like falling asleep because I was extremely bored with how I did it. So I wanted to take a whole different approach to it. I literally took video of me doing the test, but it wasn't what I wanted, you know, to put out on my channel. I want this to be more upbeat and positive, not slow and boring, you know. So anyway, my results came back, and it breaks it down in 4 different categories. You have your normal reactivity, you have your mild reactivity, your moderate reactivity, and your high reactivity ranges. It tells you which foods in each category they fall into. I had 40 foods that came out on a reactivity level, and only 4 of them were moderate reactivity. I had no foods that were on the high reactivity range, which was really like relieving, but at the same time it was kind of concerning, because I was like, wait a minute, I am like feeling so discomfort. Why am I only getting 4 foods coming up as a moderate reactivity? But you have to remember that, you know, a moderate reactivity could just be bloating. High reactivity could probably be sending you into a doctor. And I also want to explain too the difference. I don't want you to get confused with a food sensitivity test and an allergy test, because there is a difference, and I didn't know this, and that's something that wasn't mentioned in a lot of the videos that I watched. But a food sensitivity test only tests your IgG antibodies and the response to those. It doesn't tell you what your allergies are. Your allergies would be something that would happen immediately after you eat a certain food. Your body responds very quickly and you might break out in hives or a rash or something like that. Sensitivity could be a delayed reaction, like I had mentioned before. It could be diarrhea, it could be bloating, it could be nausea, it could be any kind of like headache, something like that. That's the difference between a food sensitivity and an allergy test. And honestly, I have looked around for an allergy test so that you can get them both, but I can't find anything. So I'm assuming that you have to go to your doctor and actually go into a lab to have those test results done. It's not something you can do at home. I have 4 foods that came back on my moderate reactivity range, and that came back with cow's milk, egg whites, vanilla, and yogurt, which does explain some things to me, because I have been noticing that I might have a reactivity to milk. Now, I also want to point out that this food sensitivity test will not like tell you if you're lactose intolerant. So I do have a moderate reactivity to cow's milk, and this came up at 80, which is almost in the middle of the moderate reactivity range. I've noticed that when I drink milk, it's not like an immediate thing for me. It takes a couple of days, but I started realizing that maybe milk might be the reason why I'm bloating, or it might be the reason why my stools are not normal. If you want to know what a normal stool looks like, you can look into that. I won't explain that, but mine is not normal, and so I was really concerned about that. So it does like make sense to me why cow's milk and yogurt would be on there. Egg whites, not so much, but then again, I haven't really tested what I would feel like if I wasn't eating egg whites. As far as the mild reactivity range, it came back with 36 different foods. And mine was anise, bell pepper, black currants, which I don't eat anyway, Brazilian nuts, butter, casein, which is found in milk, cashews, chicken, which is going to be hard for me to do because I eat chicken very regularly, but that would explain why I might have issues. Chickpeas, clams, cloves, coffee. Okay, so I want to mention coffee. A lot of people love coffee, and I do too. Like, for me, on the weekends when I'm with my husband and we're sitting down and having our Saturday or Sunday mornings, we like to have coffee together because we don't get to see each other in the mornings on the weekdays. So we do have coffee together. I didn't start drinking coffee until I was in my early 30s. But I've noticed that whenever I did drink coffee, especially when I first started taking it, I would get a head change. Kind of like when you get buzzed when you drink alcohol. That's what coffee does to me. Then over time, within a couple of years, that head change turned into more of like almost like a dizziness or like vertigo. And then after that, a couple of years later, it started turning into headaches, and then it just became like my body just was like shaky and didn't feel right, and now I'm starting to develop tinnitus and headaches. I decided to give up coffee, and it says in here that when they're testing the coffee, they're not testing the caffeine part of coffee, they're testing the coffee bean itself. So caffeine is not the culprit of why I'm having these issues, which would make so much sense to me because I have switched from coffee to energy drinks. And I'm not talking about like Monster or anything like that, just stuff that has energy in it. So I've noticed the difference when I take that versus when I use coffee, and it's a world of difference. I still try to enjoy coffee on the weekends with my husband, but I don't go any more than half a cup of coffee. It's just to enjoy that moment. It's not to get rid of it. And I've noticed a difference in my rosacea as well. Ever since I've given up coffee, my rosacea has immensely reduced. So anyway, the rest of them would be cottage cheese, which I would understand that. Egg yolks, being that chicken is a part of it, I can understand that. Eggplant, garlic, ginger, kefir, kelp, lentils, macadamians, marjoram, mozzarella, which would be very sad for me to give up. Pacific oysters, pomegranate, poppy seed, processed cheese, raisins, rye, thyme, tuna, turkey, wheat, winter squash, and zucchini, which is really sad because I really love winter squash and zucchini. And then there's this other one called a mental cheese, and it's kind of like a Swiss cheese, which kind of sucks because I am part Italian and I really love my cheese and my bread. So that's really sucky too, but I'm gonna do a little bit here and there. Out of the rest of the foods, this test covered over 200 foods, and the rest of them were normals, which is pretty good. But it does explain some things for me, because for a while there I really thought that I was gluten intolerant. I started discovering about gluten intolerance or celiac disease about 4 years ago, and it piqued my interest, so I tried to go gluten-free. It was very difficult, but I'm starting to realize now that I don't believe that I have celiac disease. I do think that I have a sensitivity to gluten. Wheat and rye both came up on this list that is gluten. Before I even took this test, I have been playing around with gluten-free foods. I have been limiting, not fully eliminating. So I've switched over from regular pasta to gluten-free pasta. I don't really worry about like jarred foods, like as far as like salad dressings or stuff like that, or canned foods, but if it is a very bready food, I'll try not to eat it. One time I went to one of those food trucks and I got myself one of those big giant pretzels, like one of my favorite snacks, and I hardly ever get to have it, but I noticed within like an hour I started feeling this fullness in my stomach that was just so abnormal. Not like a full, like, you know, like your stomach is filled and you're like, oh man, I'm super satisfied. It was more like a sinking feeling in my gut that just didn't feel normal, and it took forever to pass. It took hours and hours to pass, and sometimes if I eat foods like that, it might even be hard for me to sleep. So try to stay away from foods like that, something that's really, really high in gluten. If it has a lower amount of gluten, I feel like it's easier to pass, and that would explain why it's on the mild reactivity range. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it does to me. So basically, when you take this test, they tell you what your sensitivities are, and then you do a temporary elimination test, and they suggest doing it one by one, not all at once. So you might want to start off with your high reactivity or your moderate reactivity foods first, and then move on from there and see how you feel, and then maybe start incorporating them back in later and see if maybe there's a difference, and then you'll like kind of pinpoint where you're coming from, what your body's telling you. I know that it's a process, but hey, like it might take you a year to find out what is causing this discomfort that you're feeling, but at least you'll know. So do I think that this food sensitivity test is worth it? Yeah, I do. I've seen other people who feel like they were disappointed with the test, but honestly, like I have mentioned before, you're not gonna get all the answers you're looking for based on this test. You're just gonna get like a fraction of what you're looking for, and maybe that's all you need. If you need more answers than that, like I said, go see a doctor. But this saves you time from going into a clinic, and I was pretty satisfied with the results. It does help me pinpoint foods that I could eliminate from my diet temporarily, one by one, and then incorporate it back into my diet and see if maybe there's changes. So I would say overall it is worth it. It's worth the money. This one did cost me about $200. I'll check into that to make sure. And like I said, you could use your flex card. So I mean, why not? If you have money on there, sometimes you don't get to use it and you lose it by the end of the year. So like if you have extra money on there, use it. Buy this. Go on there. Get it. Like take it. What harm could it do? It is a little scary to prick your finger. It was pretty intense when I took it. I nearly fainted when I did do it, because as a person with thyroid, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but almost every single time I get my blood drawn or I have to get an IV done, I literally see stars and I will faint. I don't know why, it is what it is, but it might not happen to you. It is just a prick of the finger. It's kind of like when you get pricked in your finger if you are a diabetic. So it's that easy. It's so simple. Anyway, if you guys really found this video interesting and you want to hear more about hypothyroidism and you want to hear a little bit about my story and know where I'm coming from, please like my video and drop a comment down below. I would love to hear anything that you guys have to say. If you guys have any advice, I would love to hear them too. Again, please subscribe to my channel if you're new. I have a lot of good stuff on here on my channel. I don't just stick to one thing. I'm a woman of many trades. I do a lot of research and I try to do things that are very interesting. And yeah, so if you found it interesting, please subscribe. I need those subscribers, guys. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.